Hey friends, this is our Dean's fandom of fiction. In today's special we are gonna see Dean and Sam shielding the marked witness. Sorry for disturbance, you skip 20 seconds from here. This note for author of the fanfiction. I have given credits to author in description of the video by. If the original author wishes to reclaim copyright or remove this video, I kindly request before giving copyright strike. Please contact us using the information provided in the pinned comment. We respect and acknowledge authorship rights, and I will delete that specific video by myself. Thank you. Fiction start from here. Dean Winchester rolled over in bed and felt around for the alarm clock to turn it off. He lay there for a few minutes to wake up before pushing himself to a sitting position. He ran a hand down his face and arched his back as he stretched. With a wide yawn, Dean got up and strolled to the bathroom for a shower. With the water warming, he looked at his reflection in the mirror and sighed deeply. Guess he needed to shave after his shower. Dean stepped under the hot spray, letting it beat on his face and head. He quickly shampooed his hair and then washed his body. After rinsing well, he grabbed a soft towel and ran it over his wet body, and then his head. Once he was dry and freshly shaved, Dean headed into the bedroom to find clothes to wear. He pulled out a pair of acid-wash jeans and tossed them to the bed in a button-up shirt. Dean looked in his dresser for briefs and socks to put on first and slipped on his clothes. He sat on the bed and leaned over to find his boots. Once he was done, he stood and went to a small gun safe on the dresser and unlocked it to get out a holstered handgun. After slipping it onto his belt in the small of his back, he picked up his badge and clipped it to his belt. Dean was a U.S. Marshal that worked in the WITSEC program in Austin, Texas. He helped relocate witnesses who had seen violent crimes and were willing to testify against the criminals. They got new names, a new place to live, a new job, a monthly allowance, a chance at a new life. The person could have no contact with their past lives, family, friends, co-workers, hobbies, anything that might lead the bad guys to their doorstep. The one thing every witness had in common was someone wanted them dead. The coffee was ready in the kitchen, and Dean poured a cup and grabbed a yogurt from the fridge, and looked to see if he still had leftovers to take for lunch. Dean pulled a bowl from the fridge, shook it, deciding it would do, and sat it on the counter to take with him. He sat at the counter, ate his yogurt, and drank his coffee. Dean checked the time and grabbed the keys for his work SUV from a bowl to head downtown to the office. Using the shortcuts he had found, Dean missed most of the morning rush hour and pulled into the parking lot of the U.S. Marshal building with time to spare. He parked, headed inside and up to the third floor to the office. Dean ran his ID badge through the lock, and when it buzzed, pushed the double glass doors open to go inside. Winchester, a male voice called to him as he approached his desk. Yes, boss? Dean asked, stepping to the doorway of Bobby Singer's office. Need you to go check on a witness for me, Bobby told him, holding out a file. What's up? Dean questioned, taking the offered file and flipping it open. Probably not anything, but better run a threat assessment to be sure. Guy claims he saw someone watching him when he was at lunch yesterday. Could be a false alarm, but better to cover our asses to be on the safe side. Sure thing, boss. Dean nodded, stepping back to his desk. He sat down and looked at the file to get the name of the witness, address, and skimmed the file before he would head out. Hey Dean, a female voice greeted him as she strolled into the room and sat down at the desk across from his. Good morning, Jody, Dean replied, closing the file and getting up. Don't leave on my account, she teased. Boss has me checking out a possible breach. Have fun with that. Thanks. Guess you get the next newbie, Dean chuckled, looking toward the conference room at a guy sitting in there chewing on his nails. Bite me, Winchester, Jody snapped at him. Dean left the office and headed to the elevators to head to the first floor and out the front door. He had already determined a route to the address in his head, and got in his vehicle to drive there. Dean had always been good with directions and remembering things, so that's what made him good at his job. He could see details that were overlooked by others, and could access a situation to decide the best course of action. The traffic was thinning out as Dean drove to the other side of town to an apartment complex. He found parking and headed to the second floor in apartment number 217, to the home of Robert Louis Aka, Robert Levin, who turned state's evidence against a crime boss. The crime boss was laundering money and providing guns to criminals. Dean knocked on the door and waited for it to be answered. He could hear locks being disengaged, and the door cracked so the person could look out. Robert, remember me? Dean Winchester, from U.S. Marshal's office. Dean spoke to him, showing him his credentials. It's been a few years. Yes, yes. Robert hurried anxiously as he opened the door further, so Dean could come inside. I remember you. My boss said you called cause you thought someone was following you. Dean questioned, getting right to the point as he glanced around the place, checking it out. The place looked like a copy of a cheap motel room, right down to the furnishings. There were clothes, newspapers, and dirty dishes littering the living room, and he wrinkled his nose from the smell of burned food. I'm not sure, but there was this guy hanging around where I work and I've seen him before. I know it, Robert explained in a nasal voice. What if they found me? Am I in danger? Take it easy, Robert. Let us check this out before you go all wacko here. Describe him to me, Dean told him, pulling a pad out to take notes and try to calm him down. Robert hadn't changed much since he went into witness protection several years ago. He still had the same stringy dull brown hair, pale complexion like he didn't get out in the sun much, baggy clothes, and a skinny body. The only thing different was the scraggly beard that he was trying to grow. He was about your height and weight, brown hair, hulky looking, beady eyes. He had beady eyes. That's a sure sign. And you say you saw him where you work? Yes. Have you seen him anywhere else? Grocery store, restaurant, bank, anywhere else you've been? No, I don't think so. Look, I need to get ready for work. But you're going to check him out? Or should I not go to work? Will I be safe? I don't want him to get me, Robert blabbered as he trembled and wiped his face. Of course, Robert, we check all possible leaks, and if you need relocating, we'll put you in a motel until that can be arranged. Don't worry over it. We'll take care of things. Thanks, Dean. No problem, Robert. Just go on about your day and I'll be touch. Dean shook his hand and headed back to the SUV. He decided to go by where Robert worked and check it out, and see if he saw anything off or got a bad feeling. He always listened to his gut feelings about things, and it usually paid off. Robert worked at a copy shop in a small strip mall on the east side of town. Dean went with the flow of traffic and pulled into the parking lot and found a place to park. He stayed in the vehicle and watched the people coming and going. It was about 20 minutes before Robert showed up and went inside the copy shop. Dean studied the people closely to see if anyone seemed overly interested in the copy shop or Robert. Dean pulled his cell from his pocket when rang. Hello, Winchester, he answered. How's the witness doing? Bobby asked in his gruff voice. He came across rough and ornery, but that was his demure. He was a good boss to work for and took care of his people. Scared, but I'm not sure there's any substance to it. I think he's just jumping at shadows, but I'll keep an eye out for a few days to be sure. Has there been any rumors come down about Robert? Not that I've heard, but I put some feelers out and will check my sources. Sounds good to me. I should be back by lunch. I'm staking out Robert's place of work. All right, I'll see you when you get back. Bye, boss. Dean hung up and got out of the SUV to walk around the area and went into a store to get a drink. He kept an eye on anyone that came close to fitting the description Robert had given him. After another hour, Dean decided to call it quits and got in the SUV to head back to the office. He was going to swing back by when Robert got off work and make sure no one was trailing him home. The marshals took every possible threat as serious and weren't going to let their witnesses fall prey to the ones who wanted them dead. Winchester, my office, Bobby called to him a couple of days later. Yes, sir, Dean replied, getting up to go into the office. Did you screw something up, partner? Jody asked with a smirk. They were always bantering with each other and kept the other in line. Dean looked back at her and shrugged that he didn't know of anything. He took a seat when Bobby motioned to the chair in front of his desk. Did anything come of the Levin witness? He questioned. No, not that I can tell. I've kept an eye on his comings and goings for the past few days, but didn't see anything out of place, nor did I sense anything. I think Robert is being paranoid, but I'll follow up again with him. Good. We've got a new witness coming in today. I want you to take point. Sure, who is it? A young man was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He saw several guys get shot by some gang members. Okay, doesn't sound too difficult. There's more, Bobby continued. The gang is associated with a drug cartel, and they want him dead. Already tried twice to whack him, but he was lucky and got away. So, this is a high priority case? Yes, I need your expertise on this one. You got it, boss. When will he get here? After lunch. They're flying him in from Los Angeles. He was a doctor there. So, this will probably be tough on him having to give that kind of career up. Married? Girlfriend? No to both. His parents are dead and he's an only child. That's one good thing at least. They don't have anyone to leverage against him. The paperwork will be ready by the time he gets here. Alright, anything else I should know? It's in the file. Do your homework. Bobby passed the blue folder to Dean and went back to filling out some paperwork. Dean got up and went back out to his desk and took a seat. What's up? Jody asked, eyeing the folder he had. Got a new witness coming in this afternoon, Dean told her. Has a vicious gang and drug cartel after him. Bummer, poor guy. Sounds like he's got the deck stacked against him. Yeah, but he has us to watch out for him. As long as he follows the rules, he should be safe. That's what we tell all of them, Jody replied. But you know how that goes. Don't jinx us before he even gets here, Joe. Dean cautioned her as he started reading through the file and looking at the photos attached. He turned back to the front and studied the photo of the witness. He had long shaggy hair, a strong angular face, hazel eyes, and clean-shaven face. His eyes held intelligence and a touch of sadness. Dean wondered what his personality was going to be like, and hoped he wasn't snobbish and demanding. Anything of interest in there? Not much different than most of the others that come through our doors. They each have a story to tell, and it's up to us to keep them safe. How did your new witness do this morning? He was all sorts of messed up, anxious, jumpy, thinks everyone is out to kill him. I got him settled in his new apartment and got some groceries for him. I thought I'd give him a few days to settle and then take him on a couple of job interviews. Hopefully, he'll settle into his new life without any problems. Yeah, sometimes it's hard for them to accept that their old life is over and they're having to reinvent themselves. True, if you're done with that, how about letting me have a look at it? Help yourself in case I'm not available for him. You'll be back up if I'm out sick or out of town. I'm going for a cup of coffee, care for one? Sure, if you're going I wouldn't turn down a cup. Dean got up giving Jody a smile as he strolled to the break room for the coffees. His mind was still on the young doctor who would be there that afternoon, knowing all too well what he was going to have to give up. He carried the coffees back into the main room and sat one cup on Jody's desk as he watched her read the file. After sitting back down at his desk, Dean pulled the files from his inbox and started doing the paperwork for each one, placing them in his outbox as he finished them. The time ticked away, and lunch drew near. Okay, Dean. Flip to see who goes out for lunch, Jody announced as she pulled a coin from her desk drawer. Call it, she told him, tossing the coin in the air and letting it fall in her palm to smack it onto her other hand. Heads, Dean quickly said. Oh, gee, sorry. Guess you get to make the run, Jody smirked as she dropped the coin back into the desk drawer. You realize I know when you're cheating, right? Dean asked her as he arched a brow and gazed knowingly at her. Jody had been with Witsec 6 months longer than Dean, and they had hit it off from the beginning. They made good partners, and their boss, Bobby Singer, saw that right up front. It was like opposites did attract between them. He let Jody show Dean the ropes and was happy when they seemed to work together so well. Jody was older than Dean and had a motherly sense about her. She took Dean under her wing and formed a close friendship with him. SPN. Jody and Dean studied the young man that was brought into the conference room and seated at the table. They watched him look around with a worried, serious look on his face as he waited. He clenched his hands together for a moment, and then wiped them down the leg of his jeans like he was nervous. His eyes darted around as he took in the room and what he could see outside of it. Shall we get this over with? Jody sighed, pushing away from the corner of the desk she was sitting on. Might as well, Dean agreed, turning to pick up the contracts Bobby had brought him. He took them under his arm and made his way to the glass doors, pushing one open and allowing Jody to enter first. Good afternoon, Dean greeted the witness. I'm Marshall Winchester, and this is my partner Marshall Mills. We're going to go over your contract for the Witness Protection Program and answer any questions you might have. Hello, I'm Sam Wesson. Sam introduced himself, standing up. I mean Sam Wilson. He corrected himself, frowning at his mistake. Good to meet you, and you better work on getting your name right, Dean told him, sitting down beside him. It could mean the difference between life and death. It's nice to meet you, Sam, and what Dean said is correct. You have some seriously bad people who want to see you dead before you can testify. Sorry. This is all so foreign to me. It'll take some getting used to is all. I'll be more careful. All right, let's get started going over the contract, Dean said. He gave each a thick-bound contract and flipped to the first page of his copy. Sam's eyes widened when he saw the thickness of the contract, and slowly turned to the first page and started reading it. It was unbelievably detailed and covered all aspects of the program. Dean and Jody followed along with him, with Dean pointing out certain things to him, making sure he understood them. Sam questioned some of the details, but most were self-explanatory. It was laid out in terms most common people could understand. It took several hours to read it all, and another one to go back over the highlights, and to be sure Sam understood what was expected of him. Sam's mind wasn't working at 100% right now, and understanding all this was harder than expected. Sam Wesson was dead, and Sam Wilson was being born. He had a clean slate and was starting a new life in a new city he had never visited. Sorry about being so slow reading this, but it's a lot more than I expected. Sam apologized. It's fine. I know this is a lot to digest. Do you want a minute? Dean asked Sam when he saw the weary, exhausted look on his face. He knew how hard it was for those going into witness protection. Would you like something to drink, Sam? Jody asked in a kind voice. That would be nice, Sam replied, sitting back in the chair and rubbing his strained eyes. Dean didn't say anything while he waited for Jody to come back with a drink. He could see the strained look on Sam's face, and knew he was barely holding it together. I can never go back, can I? Sam asked in a quiet voice. No, afraid not. Los Angeles is the last place you want to be right now. I didn't have much, but what about my stuff at my apartment? And my bank accounts? Have I lost what little money I had saved? No, all that will be taken care of. Your accounts will be closed, and the money will go through the Marshal Service and then to you. It'll be untraceable, but it may take a few weeks. Like your contract states, you can't have anything that will link you to your past. Not even photos of my parents. They've been dead for 5 years now and didn't even live in law. Can't I have them? I'll hide them and not show them to anyone. I promise, Sam pleaded. Dean looked at Jody for a moment before looking back at Sam. Tell me where they are, and we'll assess them to determine if they would pose a threat, he conceded. They're in a box in my bedroom closet on the top shelf. I never got around to putting any out. Okay, for the rest of the stuff you'll be compensated for it, and you can replace what you want. Here is a new driver's license, passport, credit cards, social security card, bank card, checking and savings account info for you with your new name. Dean shook the envelope, letting the items fall from it in front of Sam. All right, I guess. Sam slumped forward with his elbows on the table and rested his face in his hands. He didn't move to take the items at first, but finally picked them up and looked at them. His life was being turned completely upside down, and he just hoped he was strong enough to survive all this. Jody sat a drink within Sam's reach, and Dean noticed the tremble of his hand as he reached for it. Though he did try to hide it, his lips were pinched together. He seemed jumpy and tense as he opened the drink, and took a long swallow before stopping. Sam began to thumb back through the contract again, stopping here and there to reread some sections again. Dean remained silent as he let all that was happening to Sam sink in, before finally breaking the silence in the room. Do you have further questions for us or about the program? Give me a minute, Sam finally got out, clearing his throat when his voice sounded raspy. Look, I know this is overwhelming, but it will get better. Once you get settled into your new place and start working, it'll be better. So, I can't work in the medical field anymore. What am I supposed to do? Sam asked in a bleak voice. All those years of college wasted now. Sam huffed sadly as he stared off into space. If I don't do this, agree to this, I would give you less than a week before someone from the gang or cartel kills you, Dean told him, being blunt and to the point. He watched Sam pale and swallow hard as he looked away from him. I'm just telling you the truth, dude. If you don't do this, your life is worthless. He's right, Sam. Those lunatics won't stop until you're dead, so you can't testify. It's still your choice. We can't make it for you, she explained. Fine, Sam sighed softly. I don't see where I have much choice if I want to stay alive. Sam picked the pen up and turned to the first page and signed at the bottom. He flipped to the other marked pages and initialed in the right places, and signed one more spot. When he was done, he ran a hand over his face and up over his hair, pushing it out of his face. Okay, now that that is taken care of, shall we go see your new place? Dean asked him, gathering the contracts to drop off at his desk. Let's go, Sam. Dean got up and waited to be sure Sam was going to follow before leaving the conference room. You wanna come, Jody? Nope, it's all you this time. I've got a couple of home visits to make today. Suit yourself. Have fun. Dean headed out the glass doors, holding them open for Sam. He gave him an interesting look when he saw just how tall he was, even compared to him. Will I get another car? Sam asked as he settled in the passenger seat of the SUV, after dropping his 2 duffels in the back seat. Yes, it's in the works. It'll be comparable to the one you had, Dean replied, pulling from the lot. You'll like the place they found. It's a nice neighborhood, and the house has a small backyard. There's even a community pool you can use. Sounds better than what I had before, Sam offered as he looked out the window at Austin. At least it wasn't smoggy and not quite as crowded. If you look in the glove box, there's a map of Austin, Dean told him. I give one to all my new witnesses that come here. It'll help you find things until you're familiar with the city. Thanks, Sam mumbled, opening the glove box and finding the map. He slipped it into his pocket to look at it later. He noticed they were driving out of the business district and into residential areas. Dean turned into a housing development, and after a couple of other turns pulled into a driveway. Sam looked at the one-story house that had a carport and was clapboard on the outside with a small porch on the front. There were empty flower pots sitting on the porch and a stone walkway leading to the porch. He got out when Dean did and followed him to the front door. Okay, let's see what we've got inside, Dean told him, pulling some keys from his pocket and unlocking the door, pushing it open. He stepped inside and gave it a curious glance and waited for Sam to follow. Sam moved into the foyer and looked around. To the left was a living room that had furniture in it. On the right, through an archway, was the kitchen dining room. He wandered deeper into the house and down a small hall, finding two nice-sized bedrooms and a bathroom in between them. He sat his duffels in the hall until he decided which bedroom he wanted to use. The kitchen isn't bad. If there's some appliance you want or something doesn't work, let me know, and we'll replace it, Dean told him as he looked over the kitchen. All right, Sam replied. There's a laundry room through there and this leads to the deck and backyard, Dean told him. He opened the door and stepped outside onto the deck. Sam followed him outside and looked around, seeing a fence in the backyard. It was a decent size and better than he expected. It was like a castle compared to the studio that he rented in Los Angeles. The television will be delivered tomorrow, and the cable should be on by then too. Look, why don't you relax and look around, and I'll run to the store and get you some groceries? Dean offered. Anything you don't like? I try to eat healthy, fresh fruit and vegetables, lean meats, fat-free milk, yogurts, Sam listed. All right, I'll get you enough to get you started, and then you can do your own shopping. Stay inside until I get back or on the deck. Okay, Sam sighed, looking around as Dean headed back out. He gave the backyard another look before going back inside to check the house out. He looked in the laundry room, finding a suitable washer and dryer, which was a plus, and some shelves he could use as a pantry. There was a coat closet in the foyer that even had some coats hangers in it. The living room had a couch, recliner, overstuffed chair, couple of end tables, empty entertainment center, and bookcase. Sam sat on the couch and then in the recliner to test them before looking at the other things. The floors were hardwood throughout the house. He reached up to turn on the ceiling fan to circulate the air that smelled a little stale. He wandered back to the bedrooms, looking at each one before deciding which one he wanted to use. He opened a door and found a walk-in closet with some sheets, pillows, and blankets on a shelf that he grabbed to make the bed. Sam pulled the curtains back and opened the window to let in some fresh air. The bed was queen-size and comfortable when Sam sat down on it and bounced a couple of times. He shook the fitted sheet out and made the bed, adding a blanket last. Sam tried to stay busy with little things that wouldn't take much effort, since he felt like he was walking around in a fog. He wasn't sure what had happened to him had sunk in yet. He was moving on autopilot, just going through the motions, so he wouldn't have to think about what he had witnessed. The bathroom had a double sink with a large shower tub combo, which was nice. It was big enough that he didn't feel like a giant, and the shower head was almost tall enough he wouldn't have to squat to get his head wet. He looked behind a door and found a small linen closet filled with towels, hand towels, and washcloths. Sam went back into the living room to wait on Dean, thinking the house wasn't that bad at least. He slumped on the couch, feeling like every bit of energy had been drained out of him. He had been through a lot in one day, and his body was rebelling. He was having doubts about whether he should have come forward or just kept his mouth shut about what he saw. But his parents raised him to do the right thing, and he didn't think he could live with himself if he hadn't done this. Sam couldn't keep his eyes open as his head fell to the side, and he dozed off. SPN. Dean let himself back into the house carrying bags in both hands. He started to call out for Sam, but saw him asleep on the couch. Deciding not to wake him, he quietly went on into the kitchen and headed back outside for the other bags. Once he got everything inside, he put the items that needed to be refrigerated in the fridge, and left the other things for Sam to put away where he wanted them. He took the laundry detergent, fabric softener, and cleaning supplies to the laundry room, and the toilet paper and soap to the bathroom, leaving it on the counter. Hey, Sam, I'm back, Dean called to him, giving his shoulder a shake. He quickly stepped back when Sam sprang from the couch in a fighter's stance, ready to defend himself as he stared wildly around. Easy there, dude. I just wanted to let you know I'm back. Sorry, Sam mumbled, relaxing slightly as he let his shoulders slump and his hands fall to his side. I put part of the food away and figured you would want to put the rest away where you wanted, Dean explained. He was being patient and going slow with Sam, since he knew the mental and emotional toil something like this did to a person. He had seen it many times before. There's a sub for your dinner in the fridge. Here's a burner phone that already has my cell number programmed in it. If you need anything or think something is wrong, call me anytime day or night. I'm your handler and will be your contact for the program. And here's 2 sets of keys for the doors. I'm going to go and let you settle in. I'll check on you tomorrow and see where we are on getting you a car and on finding you a job. Okay. Thanks, Sam replied, taking the cell and keys and looking at them for a moment. Remember, no texting, emails, Instagram, Facebook to anyone from your past. All your old accounts are being closed so they can't be linked to you. You can't be in contact with any friends or family from your past. One small slip and you could be found, and your life put in danger. This is serious business not to be taken lightly. I understand, Sam replied in a monotone voice, looking at the floor. He knew how serious this was, but his mind wasn't accepting it yet. Oh, and there's a couple of magazines in one of the bags and a couple of paperback books to give you something to do until you get your television. Dean paused and checked Sam over. Are you going to be okay? Yeah, thanks for everything. Sam followed Dean to the front door, and once he left, double-locked it, and leaned against it looking into the house. The silence of the place seemed overpowering to him. He drew in a long breath before heading to the kitchen to see what Dean had bought. It all looked like things he would eat at least. After he put away the rest of the food, Sam got a beer and the deli sub from the fridge, deciding he might as well eat. He sat at the table and unwrapped the sandwich to take a small bite. He didn't even look at what he was eating as he bit off bites and slowly chewed each one, sipping his beer as he ate. Deciding half the sub was plenty, Sam wrapped the rest up and put it back in the fridge for tomorrow. Sam headed back to the bedroom he had picked and emptied his duffels to put away the clothes he was able to bring with him. There were 2 dressers in the room, but he only had enough clothes to barely fill one. After hanging his jeans and shirts in the closet, he arranged the few pairs of shoes on a shelf and left the duffels on the floor of the closet. With that done, Sam went back to the living room to see what kinds of books and magazines Dean had gotten him. He read for an hour and decided to take a shower and go on to bed, even though it was early. He was exhausted and kept falling asleep trying to read the book. Once he got his shower and dressed in sleep clothes, Sam went through the entire house, making sure all the windows and the doors were locked before going to bed. The mattress conformed to his body as he lay there staring at the ceiling. Nothing was the same as his studio apartment, and the noises were different. He lay awake listening to every creak, shift, squeak the house made, straining to hear everything. The cell Dean had given him was on the nightstand within reach if he needed it. He tried not to think of someone breaking into the house to kill him. Sleep finally took over, sending Sam into the darkness as his mind shut down. Sam's dreams were plagued by nightmares of violence, killings, being chased, and he jerked himself awake breathing hard. He lay in the unfamiliar bed and let himself calm down, before turning over to see sunlight streaming through the partly closed curtain. He rubbed his scratchy eyes and worked on getting his mind going enough to get up. He sat up on the side of the bed and looked at the nightstand for a clock, making a mental note to buy a clock for the bedroom. Maybe he'd get one with a radio so he could listen to some music sometime. Sam tensed his muscles and relaxed them as he rolled his head back and forth, to try and relieve some of the tension still there. He yawned widely before getting up to go into the bathroom and use it. He listened closely when he came out of the bathroom, trying to pick up any misplaced sounds, and sighed with relief when he didn't hear anything. He headed back into the bedroom to change clothes and make his bed. He had always been an orderly person and kept his studio neat and clean. Sam wandered to the kitchen and decided to fix coffee and maybe some toast. He didn't have much of an appetite, and food was tasteless to him right now. He only ate to keep his strength up, and so he wouldn't get sick. What he ate really didn't matter as long as it filled his stomach. Once the toast and coffee were ready, Sam took his food out onto the deck and sat in one of the lounge chairs to eat. He gazed absently into the backyard and watched the wildlife roaming around the small area. He added a bird feeder and bird seed to his mental list he was compiling. He closed his eyes and leaned his head back to let the sun beat down on it, hoping it would warm his cool body. Sam was lost in a daydream, and didn't hear the knocking at the front door. He was almost in a trance as he slumped in the chair, his coffee forgotten. "Sam," a male voice called to him. It sounded far away, and Sam didn't respond at first until a hand shook his shoulder, making him jump. "Hey," I knocked and rang the bell. "But you mustn't have heard it," Dean told him, not saying anything about his nervousness. "Sorry, no, I didn't hear it," Sam replied, trying to recover from the awkwardness. I have some coffee in the kitchen if you'd like a cup." "Sure, that would be good," Dean replied. He let Sam get up and lead the way to the kitchen, and pour him a cup of coffee. He wanted Sam to feel useful and in control of his space, so he'd feel comfortable in the new place. "Do you take sugar or cream?" Sam questioned. "Black's good for me, thanks." Dean accepted the cup and took a sip. "How did your first night here go?" It was okay, I guess. It's going to take some getting used to the different sounds and noises here. Your car should be here after lunch, so you'll have transportation, and I'm working on finding a job that would suit you and not be too boring. There's nothing worse than having a job you hate. Thanks. I'm not sure what I would be good at. I didn't have much time for anything else but school and doing my residency. I worked long shifts at the hospital. Dean tensed when someone rang the doorbell and motioned for Sam to stay where he was. He got up and headed for the door to see who it was. Good news, Dean called to Sam. Your television is here, and I made sure they brought a DVD player too. Sam stepped out into the hall to see two guys carrying a large box into the living room and followed them, watching as they unpacked a television and set it on the entertainment center. It was a large flat-screen smart TV, and he stared in wonder as Dean pulled a knife to cut the tape to open the box for the DVD player. He sat it on a shelf under the television and looked at the instructions to connect it to the television. He sat a receiver on another shelf for cable. I'll have this hooked up in a second, and we'll see if it works, Dean told Sam, pulling wires out of the box before stuffing everything else into it. Sam watched the two strangers gather all the trash to take with them. They never spoke to him or really looked at him as they left. He turned back to Dean, who was half hidden by the television, as he maneuvered his body to connect the cable to the television, and then the DVD player. Okay, let's see if I have the magic touch here, Dean stated once everything was hooked up. He found the quick setup for the television and turned it on to begin programming it. Here's the remote for the receiver, and this is the remote for the television. I've programmed the receiver remote to turn the TV on and off for you. You can record like 4 programs at a time with the receiver, and I'll let you explore the channels you have. You can change the cable package if you don't like it. There's a number here on these papers to do that. Dean handed all the papers to Sam and saw a perplexed look on his face, like he was being overloaded with information. Take your time with things. It's best to go slow at first and get used to everything, he offered. Yeah, you're probably right, and whatever is on there will be fine. I didn't even have a TV in law. I was never home that much to watch it. Alright, it looks like it's working, so I'm going to go for now. I'll be back this afternoon with your car. That sounds good. I forgot to tell you, I picked up some DVDs for you. Didn't know what you liked, so I got an assortment. Hopefully you haven't seen them. Probably not, thanks for this. Sam motioned with his hands at everything. I know it's your job and all, but still. No problem, man. You're my responsibility now, and I look out for all my witnesses. Dean shrugged, not wanting to say that Sam seemed different than most people coming into the program. For some reason he felt more protective of him. I'll see you later, Sam, and hopefully with a car. Dean gave him a salute and headed for the door, with Sam trailing along behind him. Always lock your doors, Dean reminded him. I do, don't worry. Sam watched Dean walk down the walkway and disappear. He closed the door and locked it before going back to the living room. He picked up the remote and looked at it, and then at the television, before hitting the guide button to have a program guide pop up. Sam slowly scrolled down the list and picked a different channel to watch. Noticing the box by the couch, Sam reached for it to see what DVDs Dean had gotten him. He pulled out the first 2 seasons of a television program called Supernatural, a couple of Avengers movies, couple of Die Hard movies, Taken, first season of Justified, couple of Batman movies, and John Wick. Sam had heard of a couple of the movies, but that was it. He took them and carefully stacked them on a shelf on the entertainment center, thinking he might watch one later. He got comfortable on the couch and looked at the screen, glad to have something harmless to focus on, and hoping he could just relax for a while and let all this sink in. It was like he was getting a reset on his life. After Sam finished watching the television program, he got up and wandered back to the kitchen. He was not used to having all this time on his hands and wasn't sure how to deal with it. He explored the cabinets in the kitchen to see what was in them, besides the food he had put away yesterday. He found all the basics items to cook with. He looked around in the drawers and found a pad of paper and pen to write a few things down that he needed. Sam looked around the kitchen, thinking it was going to take a while for this place to feel like home if it ever did. This was all so strange and unfamiliar to him right now. There was nothing that was his except the clothes on his back, and the ones he was able to bring with him. He knew he needed some stability right now, so he could make it through this without going nuts. With nothing else to do, Sam looked in the fridge to decide on what to have for a late lunch. He looked at his selection and decided he might as well eat the rest of the sub, so it wouldn't go to waste. He hadn't really tasted what he was eating last night, so maybe today it might taste better. Sam pulled some corn chips from the cabinet and got a glass, filling it with ice and then water. He sat at the table and looked out the window that overlooked the backyard. He had to admit it was nice here, but he hadn't seen much of the city, and checked to see what it had to offer yet. Sam was startled when a phone started ringing in the living room, and got up to go answer it. He stared at the cell for a second like it was a snake before picking it up to answer it. "Hello," Sam answered cautiously. "Hi Sam, it's Dean." Dean greeted him. "Why don't you step outside for a moment?" "Outside?" Sam squeaked with uncertainty. "Yeah, don't worry, I'm waiting on you out here." "Okay, I'll be right out." Sam hung up and put the cell back down before heading for the door to go outside. He stepped onto the porch and saw Dean standing at the end of the walkway grinning at him. "I told you I'd be back," Dean told Sam with a smirk. "And here you go. It's all yours." He held out a set of keys and waved to a SUV sitting under the carport. It was a silver Toyota Highlander about 4 years old with low mileage. "Wow," Sam mumbled as he walked slowly toward the vehicle. He opened a door and looked inside, seeing it had a CD player, cruise control, power windows and locks, and GPS system. He closed the door and walked on around the car, coming to a stop by Dean. "This is nice, really nice. The title is in the glove box in your name, along with insurance information that's paid for a year. You're all set now." "I'm speechless. How about you give me a ride to my vehicle and try it out?" "Okay, let me get my wallet and lock the house." Sam hurried back inside and came out a few minutes later. He took the time to put the rest of his sub back in the fridge to finish later. He got in on the driver's side and adjusted the seat back. He ran a hand around the steering wheel and looked at the dash before inserting the key and cranking it. The engine roared to life and settled in a steady rumble. "Take a left at the end of the driveway," Dean instructed him as he settled in the passenger seat. "Okay," Sam nodded, putting the car in gear, and slowly backing out to turn around. He turned left onto the street and headed out of the housing development. Dean continued giving directions until Sam pulled into a parking lot and up to a black SUV that was Dean's work ride. "I programmed your address into the GPS, so you can find your way back home," Dean told him. "So, if you want to explore for a bit before going back home, do it. You should be safe since no one knows you're here. But if you have any problems or just need to talk, you have my number." "Thanks, I might do that." Sam watched Dean get in his SUV and drive away. He sat there for a few minutes getting oriented and thought he might stop at a small mall he saw on the drive there. He needed to pick up some bathroom things like shampoo, toothpaste, soap, razors, and shaving cream. He figured it would do him good to be out of the house for a bit. SPN. Sam stopped in front of a beauty salon and looked inside. He absently rubbed a hand over his hair, thinking he hadn't had a good haircut in a while. What with his busy schedule at the hospital, he thought about his situation now, and realized he could do a few things to change his appearance, so it would be harder for anyone to find him. The salon wasn't busy, so Sam didn't have to wait long to be taken back. He settled in a chair and held still while the woman put a cape around him. "Okay, young man, what would you like today?" a middle-aged woman asked him in a jolly voice. "I'm not sure," Sam hesitantly said. "How about taking some length off and layering it a little? I want a new look." "All right, leave it to me." The woman sprayed his hair to wet it and combed through it before dividing the hair, so she could start cutting. She took some length off and shaped it before stopping. "Okay, do I need to take any more off?" she asked, letting Sam look at himself in the mirror and gave him a hand mirror to check the back. Sam ran a hand through his hair and was surprised at how different he looked now. "I think this is good," Sam told her. "Great. Let me give it a quick check, and I'll dry it." The woman combed and snipped, being sure everything was the same length, and then shaved his neck to get any stray hairs. She used the dryer to blow cut hair from his shoulders, and dried his hair. "There you go, all done," she told him, taking the cape off and turning him to look in the mirror. "It's great, thank you," Sam replied. He got up and followed her to the cash register to pay. "That will be $20, she told him, ringing it up. "Here you go." Sam gave her $25 for doing such a good job. He snagged a card and slipped it in his pocket for later reference. He thought it would be a good idea to take business cards of places he liked and start an index, so he'd have the names and numbers. Sam walked out into the mall and wandered down one side, going into a store to look around. He found some glasses that he could wear to change his appearance. The last thing he got was a hat with Austin stitched on it. He took his purchases and continued down that side to the end and started walking up the other one. He went into a couple of other stores and made a few purchases before heading back to the SUV. He sat in the driver's seat and just breathed, letting all the stress, tension, worry, and fear wash off him. He was starting to feel relaxed, even though it had only been a few days since he arrived in Austin. Having a vehicle now meant he had some freedom. He stopped at a Lowe's that was located beside the mall, and went in to look for a bird feeder and seed. He wandered down the aisles until he found the section and looked over what they had to offer. Sam decided on a stand, 2 bird feeders, bag of seed, and he had to go to the tools section to buy a few tools since he didn't have any. He found a small set of tools that had the basic ones in it. He wasn't very mechanical and thought he could probably ask Dean if he really needed any help. He paid for his purchases and took them to the car. After turning on the GPS, Sam followed the directions back to his house. It was easier than he expected and was glad about that. He gathered his bags and unlocked the door to head inside. He went back to the bedroom and sat a couple of his bags on the bed, and continued to the kitchen where he left the others. He paused at a mirror hanging on the wall to look at his haircut and was pleased that it did make him look different. The only thing he couldn't change was his height. That did make him stick out in a crowd. He rubbed his jaws and decided he could see what he would look like with a beard. There was no need to be clean-shaven now. After putting away what he had bought and putting the stand, bird feeders, and seed in the laundry room to put up later, Sam decided to watch one of the movies Dean had bought him. He got something to drink and sliced some cheese and an apple to snack on. Sam sat in the recliner this time, put his feet up, and started the movie. Taken. The action and drama kept him glued to the screen and let him forget his troubles for a few hours. There was so much he could do now that he couldn't do working at the hospital, since he had very little spare time. Sam had been in Austin for nearly 2 weeks now, and he was trying to adjust to his new life. Dean came over every day to see him and praised him for taking the initiative in getting his hair cut, telling him it looked good and changed his looks. He was making breakfast on his 16th day in Austin when someone knocked at his door. He figured it had to be Dean, since he was the only person who knew he lived there. Sam smiled to himself because he enjoyed his company and looked forward to seeing him. He was forming a connection with Dean deeper than him being his handler with Witsec. "Hi Dean, I'm making breakfast if you'd like some." Sam greeted him without checking to see who it was. "Bang, you're dead," Dean deadpanned as he pointed his finger at Sam like a gun. "Sam, you can't let your guard down. Did you even look to be sure it was me?" Dean chastised him. "I'm only trying to keep you alive, dude," he continued when he saw the downhearted look on Sam's face. Sorry. I just thought it was you since no one else knows I'm here," Sam told Dean in weary voice. "Breakfast?" he asked again. He hoped Dean wasn't too mad at him for this slip. "I wouldn't turn down a cup of coffee," Dean answered, stepping inside and following Sam to the kitchen. "Have a seat, I'll get the coffee." Sam busied himself in the kitchen as Dean took a seat at the table. He brought a plate with his breakfast on it, and 2 cups of coffee to the table, before sitting down too. "You sure you don't want something?" "No, I ate before coming over." "Go ahead and eat. We've got an appointment in a couple of hours." "Appointment? What kind? Is it about testifying?" "Nope, I found you a job." "Really?" Sam asked, perking up as he ate. "And I think you'll like it." "What is it?" "You'll see. Eat up." "Tell me, I don't like surprises." "I never have, even growing up." "Suck it up, big guy. You'll see." Dean teased him, getting what he could only describe as a bitch face from Sam, making him chuckle. "Jerk," Sam muttered under his breath, not realizing Dean had heard. "Oh, you think I'm a jerk, do you?" Dean asked, arching his eyebrows at Sam as he cocked his head. "What? No, I said," Sam stammered as his face reddened. He didn't realize he had said that loud enough for Dean to hear. He cleared his throat and coughed softly before speaking again. "How do I need to dress? I don't have a suit." "No need for that, just dress casual will be fine." "I'll go get ready," Sam said. He got up and took his dishes to the sink before heading to his bedroom to change. He stopped at the bathroom to brush his teeth and comb his hair. He looked in his closet at his meager selection of clothes and flipped through them, until he found a pair of khaki pants and a blue Oxford shirt. He pulled down a pair of deck shoes to wear and got dressed. "Is this okay?" Sam asked, coming back to the kitchen to show Dean. "You look fine, Sam," Dean told him, giving him a once-over. "I wanted to remind you that you can't mention anything about your past. We've already briefed the place about your situation. They know nothing specific or who you were previously, so don't worry about that. They've worked with us before, so there won't be any problems." "That's good to know. Shall we go?" "Yes. Do you want me to drive?" "Sure. You need to get used to driving around Austin, and you can see where it's located." Sam grabbed his keys, and they headed out to his vehicle. Dean punched in the address they were going to in the GPS, so it would be programmed. Sam followed the directions and looked on with interest when he pulled into the parking lot of the main public library. "Is this where the job is?" Sam asked in an excited voice. "Yep, we pulled a few strings, and you will be the assistant director of the library. You're kidding, Sam exclaimed. Nope, this is the farthest thing from the medical field, and something that might not be too boring. I went over your questionnaire you filled out when you first came to us, and this seemed like a good fit. I've always loved to read, but didn't have the time with the hospital job. Now I can start back again. Well, let's go inside and get the paperwork filled out, and you will be all set to start work. All right? Sam readily agreed. He got out of the vehicle and followed Dean toward the main entrance. There was a bounce in his step as he eagerly thought about this job. Of all the jobs they could have found for him, if he wasn't allowed to practice medicine of any kind, this was the perfect one. He felt a pain of regret at his loss, but decided to focus on the future he was building here. Dean spoke to a woman at the information desk and was directed to the second floor where the offices were located. They took the stairs to the second floor and found the director's office. After introducing Sam to Mia Stevens, the director, he stepped out of the room so they could talk, and Sam could fill out the paperwork to get paid. Sam came out 30 minutes later with a wide grin plastered on his face. He shook hands with Mia and thanked her for the job. I take it everything went well? Dean asked as they walked back down the steps. Yes, I start on Monday, Sam told him. That's great. I told you I'd find you the right job. We should celebrate. How about I buy you dinner tonight, or is that allowed? We don't usually do that, but since you're new to the program, I'll make an exception. I'll let you pick the restaurant since you know the city. I'll come by and pick you up at 5:30 unless something urgent happens at work. I'll call you if I need to bow out. That sounds good. Maybe I can get a little normal back into my life again. Like you said, I need to make the best of what I've been given. That's right, but you still need to be aware of your surroundings and the people around you. I know your court date is still a ways out, but the closer it gets, the more desperate these people are going to get. They're not going to stop looking for you. I'll be careful. Sam followed the GPS directions back to his house and noted it took him 20 minutes to get there. His hours were going to be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, with an hour for lunch. Sam had not had this type of normal job since working part-time when in high school. He would have time to do other things, and he wouldn't have the stress that the medical field caused. I'll see you later, Dean told him when they got back to Sam's house, and he got out of the SUV. Okay, I'll be ready, Sam replied, watching him head to his vehicle to leave. He was bubbling with excitement as he let himself into the house and decided to inventory his clothes to see if he needed to buy anything before next Monday. SPN. Sam looked around the backyard trying to decide the best place to put the stand for the bird feeders. He looked at the directions, which weren't much, before choosing a spot. He used a small spade to remove a 4-inch plot of grass, so he could hammer the lower section of the stand into the ground. Once that was done, he screwed the next section in place, and then added the top part with the arms for the feeders. He stood back to survey his work, being sure the stand was straight. After filling the bird feeders, Sam hung them on the stand arms and walked back to the deck. To be sure he could see them easily, he stored the remaining seed inside and went out to sit on the deck and watch the feeders to see if any birds came to feed. It wasn't long before they attracted the attention of several different kinds of birds. He thought about checking out some books on birds in the local area, so he'd know what kind they were. Another thing he wanted to do was improve his cooking skills. He was going to see what kind of cookbooks the library had, and check some of those out too. Sam had never really had time to devote to learning to cook, and pretty much ate frozen meals or food from a can. Since he was beginning a new life, he was going to make some changes to it, and hoped it would be a better one. Sam stayed outside until it was time for him to get ready to go out to dinner with Dean. He went inside to shower and dress and wait for Dean to pick him up. He didn't have to wait long until he heard a horn honking outside. He checked this time before opening the door and heading out to the car. This is one of my favorite restaurants, Dean told Sam as he pulled into a steakhouse. It has the best rib eyes in Austin, and they will add sauteed onions if you like. And the baked potatoes are awesome, as long as they have good salad bar. I'll be happy, Sam mentioned as he got out. The lot was 3/4 full, so he figured it must be good. Just wait until you taste the pies. They're homemade daily. I don't eat many sweets, but I might make an exception. They headed inside and waited to be seated by the hostess. They were seated in a booth midway down the side. Order whatever you like, I'm paying, Sam told him as he looked at the menu. You really don't have to. I was just doing my job, Dean replied. You've done so much to help me settle in here and start a new life. Yeah, I know it's your job, Sam continued when Dean started to interrupt. I don't care. I'm truly grateful for all the help and for being a friend to me. It means a lot to me, he said in a shy voice, not wanting to sound too needy. As long as you're buying something for me as a one-time thing, we're good. But they really don't approve of clients buying us things. I do appreciate the sentiment though. Dean smiled, clapping Sam on the shoulder. They ordered, had a nice meal, and had an enjoyable conversation. Sam snatched the bill before Dean and paid for it as he planned. Dean drove back to Sam's place and made sure he got an okay before heading home. He liked spending time with Sam and wished the circumstances were different. He thought they could become good friends. 2 months had passed since Sam was moved to Austin by Witzek and started his new life. He had been working as an assistant director at the main branch of the public library and was enjoying it. It was totally different from his previous profession of being a doctor. Dean still checked in on him by a secure phone, twice a week the first couple of weeks, to be sure things were going well, and to see if he needed anything. Jody had filled in for him twice when he was tied up with other clients, and she liked the young man. He was polite, cooperative, and followed the rules to the letter. Dean's infrequent personal visits still served to steady the still nervous former doctor. Sometimes the secure video calls and texts just weren't enough. As time passed, they began to recognize a mutual trust and respect building between them. Dean knew Sam's life and safety depended on him doing his job to the best of his ability and would never cross that line of professionalism enough to distract himself from that duty. If they did decide to become friends after the case was done, well, he would think about that when the time came. Having access to so many books was a dream come true for Sam. He checked out books on birds, cookbooks, history of Austin, American history, and other subjects. He wanted to expand his knowledge and enjoyed reading again. Sam was improving his cooking skills, and he was finding he enjoyed it. It relaxed him. Dean pulled up the driveway and parked behind Sam's SUV. He got out and headed for the front door to pick Sam up for a meeting with the FBI and Attorney General, to go over his testimony and prepare him for the trial that was coming up soon. He knocked on the door and waited for Sam to answer it. "Hey, come on in," Sam greeted him, opening the door wider. "I'll be ready in a couple of minutes." "No problem," Dean replied, stepping into the foyer and on into the living room to wait on him. He looked around the room and noticed the bookcase was almost full now of a mixture of books. Sam had added a few things to the room to make it his own and to feel more like home. "I'm ready now," Sam informed him 10 minutes later as he came back into the room putting on his jacket. "Let's go then." Dean headed back out the door, and they got into his SUV to head to the office. He glanced over at Sam when he saw his leg bouncing nervously and saw the worried expression on his face. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Sam replied, not fooling Dean for a moment. "This is just a preliminary meeting with the DA and FBI. You'll have more meetings before your court date. It's nothing to worry about. They're going to go over your statement and let you know what to expect." "I understand," Sam answered. "The ones who killed those guys, are they still in prison?" "No, they were released on bail," Dean told him, thinking it was better to be truthful to him. "Oh," he mumbled as he hunched smaller, thinking back to what he saw that got him into this in the first place. If they were out, he knew he was being hunted, and the drug cartel had deep pockets with plenty of money to bribe anyone. "Don't worry, they're being watched," Dean offered as some assurance he was safe. They remained quiet the rest of the way to the office. Dean pulled into the parking deck and parked in his usual spot. They got out and headed into the building and to the elevator to go to the 4th floor. Sam looked around warily as he waited for Dean to run his badge, so they could get inside. "Hello, Sam," Jody spoke to him when they stepped inside. "Hi, Jody," Sam replied, trying to give a weak smile. "Winchester, my office," Bobby called to Dean, making him detour that way. "Sam, stay with Jody," Dean instructed him before stepping into the office. "Have a seat, Sam," Jody offered. "How are you doing?" "Okay," Sam replied, his voice slightly strained. His eyes darted around looking for the ones he was supposed to meet with, but didn't see anyone yet. "They should be here shortly," Jody told him, sensing what he was thinking. "How's the cooking going?" she asked, trying to distract him. "I'm getting better. I made Salisbury steak the other night with mashed potatoes and gravy." "Sounds good. And the job, are you still liking it?" "Yes, very much." Sam smiled as he looked at her. He liked her and thought she was a good partner for Dean. "Okay," Dean told them. "Let's head on into the conference room. Bobby got a call. The feds and DA are on their way up." Sam got up and followed Dean into the same room he had used before. He took a seat and looked anxiously toward the doors, waiting for the others to come. He clenched his hands together under the table, so no one would notice. "Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson." A man dressed in a suit greeted him when he stepped into the room. "I'm Special Agent Richards, and this is DA Graff. You know why you're here today. We'll be going over your testimony for court. Marshals, we've got this from here." He dismissed Dean and Jody. Hello, Sam replied in a cautious voice, eyeing the two strangers, and glanced at Dean as he turned to leave. He had hoped he would get to stay for the support. He was a pleasant prick, Dean mumbled in a sarcastic tone as he watched them through the glass windows. He could tell Sam was nervous and uncomfortable being alone in there with them. He watched files being pulled out, and one-sided conversations as Sam looked from one person to the other. 30 minutes later, he could see Sam was talking, and by the body language he wasn't happy. His nostrils flared in anger as he stood getting ready to rescue Sam, when he suddenly hurried from the room. "Take me home," Sam whispered in a defeated tone, not making eye contact with Dean. "What's going on?" Dean asked, glaring at the two still in the conference room. "Nothing," Sam mumbled as he headed out the doors, not waiting on Dean. Dean looked at Jody and shrugged before heading after him, determined to find the underlying cause of this. He got on the elevator just before the doors closed and frowned at Sam. He waited until they were in the SUV before questioning him. "Okay, start talking. What happened?" Dean asked in an authoritative voice. They told me if being here was compromised I would be moved again," Sam finally told him. "That's true. Witnesses are moved to another city if their location is found out by the bad guys. And they said I'd be given another name, job, house or apartment, like this time. I don't want to move again and have to start over," Sam explained in a helpless voice. "I like it here and I like my new job. I'm beginning to think I should have kept my mouth shut and not agreed to testify against them. As long as they don't know where you are safe. We can't make you do this, Sam. It is your choice." "That's not how they made it sound," he mumbled, looking at Dean for a moment before dropping his gaze. "I would be kicked out of WITSEC and be on my own with no protection. They insinuated I'd be signing my death certificate. Those bureaucrats can browbeat witnesses into doing what they want. I bet they threw a few subtle threats into," Dean sneered, knowing they would do anything to get what they wanted. He saw the defeated, hopeless look in Sam's eyes, and wished he could promise him that everything would be okay. "But the closer the trial date gets, the harder they're going to be looking for me. What's stopping them from finding me?" "It'll be okay, Sam. I'll double my visits and keep an ear on the gossip in case something comes down the pipeline. At the sign of any trouble, we'll move you to a motel until we can get you to a safe house. And if you feel concerned about anything, you call me day or night. I'll be there as fast as I can." When Sam didn't reply, he asked again. "Sam, you understand me. Anything concerns you, call me." "Okay, I understand. Can I go home now?" Sam asked, looking out the side window, ending the conversation. Dean didn't say anything else as he cranked the SUV and pulled it from the parking lot. He knew things were getting real for Sam now, with the court date drawing close. He could feel the tension coming off the young man, and knew there was nothing he could say to make it better. He couldn't promise him things would work out and be truthful. After Dean pulled up Sam's driveway, he stopped and looked at him as he started to get out. "Want me to come in so we can talk some more?" Dean asked him. "No, I need to be alone, I think," Sam replied, getting out and closing the door before Dean could say anything else. He headed up the walkway and unlocked the front door, going inside and closing it behind him. Dean sighed and backed out, leaving Sam alone, deciding he'd check on him tomorrow to be sure he was okay. He knew what pricks the FBI and DA could be at times and didn't always play well with others. He was very protective of his witnesses and didn't like them being upset or bullied by the higher-ups. SPN. Sam was almost ready for work when he heard knocking at his front door. He went to answer it, checking to see who it was before opening the door. "Hey Sam, I just wanted to check on you on my way to work," Dean greeted him, waiting to be invited in. "I'm fine," Sam told him, his voice dull as he stepped back so he could come inside. "I'm heading out to work shortly. I won't stay long. You were upset yesterday, and good reason to be too. I didn't like the way I left you." Dean followed him into the kitchen as they continued to talk. "It was a little overwhelming is all. I'm good now." Sam poured a travel mug of coffee and doctored it before putting the lid on it. "If you need to talk to someone, we do have counseling services available for you." "No, like I said, I'm good. I should get going." Sam wasn't one to voluntarily talk about his personal life or what he was feeling with strangers. He was closed off about that. "All right. I'll check in with you in a couple of days then." Dean headed for the front door and on to his SUV with Sam following him. He watched him get in his SUV and backed out to head to work, so Sam could do the same. Dean got to work, and they processed a new WITSEC witness, getting all the paperwork done, and taking him to his apartment to get settled. Jody went to the grocery store to get some basic supplies for him, and brought them by while Dean was still there. They were getting ready to leave when Dean's cell started ringing. "Winchester." "Hello," Dean answered. "Slow down, hang on." Dean spoke quickly, stepping outside for some privacy. "Tell me what's going on." I saw them, Dean. They found me, Sam blurted out in a panicked voice. Sam's mood was low as he walked into the library and made his way upstairs to his office. He was still mulling over meeting with the FBI and DA the day before, because he realized his life was no longer his. It threw him in a downward spiral. Things were beginning to settle down for him over the last 2 months, and it was starting to feel a little like home for him now. Just the thoughts of having to move again and start all over threw him into a depressed mood. He had barely slept last night and was weary and dragging today. After refilling his travel mug with coffee from the break room, Sam dropped into the chair behind his desk and looked at his in and out boxes, wondering if he could concentrate on the paperwork enough to get it done. He squared his shoulders and closed his eyes, taking some deep breaths to calm himself. He had a job to do, and he wasn't going to neglect it. By the time lunch rolled around, Sam had finished most of the paperwork and prepared the forms for requesting additional books for the library and sending requested books to branch offices. He never realized how much paperwork was involved with running a library. The more he learned about the job, the additional responsibility Mia gave him, it made him feel confident and boosted his morale to know he was doing a decent job and people respected him. He had always been good with learning and retaining information while in school, and with about anything else he tried. Sam went to the break room to get his lunch and drink, and headed outside to the park that was beside the library. When the weather was nice, he liked to take his lunch break in the park. He had found a huge shade tree to sit under on a towel and read a book as he enjoyed his meal. There was no one in his spot under the tree, so Sam spread out the towel and took a seat. He liked this place because it allowed him to observe the other people in the park without them really noticing him. He was almost finished with his lunch when he noticed 3 men who seemed out of place in the park. He wasn't sure what it was that sent chills down his back when he saw them. Sam froze as the men moved through the park, looking at the people like they were searching for someone. His face paled and his breath caught in his throat when they got close enough for him to see the gang tattoos running down their arms and on their necks. When he saw the tattoos, Sam slumped lower to the ground and pulled the baseball cap he was wearing lower on his head. He grabbed up his leftover food and stuffed it in his small pack, and kept the tree between him and the bad guys. He kept his eyes glued on them and waited until they were on the other side of the park heading out, before getting up and going in the opposite direction. He didn't bother going back inside for fear they might know he worked there. He headed for a bus stop and clambered onto the one waiting there to grab a seat. Once the bus was moving, Sam fumbled his cell from his pocket and dialed Dean's number. I saw them, Dean. They found me, Sam blurted out in a panicked voice as loud as he dared. He looked around at the other passengers to be sure no one was paying attention to him. Where are you? Dean asked in a serious voice as he got up from his desk and motioned for Jody to follow him. I'm on a bus, Sam told him, his voice shaking with fright. Do you know where it's going? No, I didn't see. I just knew I had to get away from the park. Look, get the bus number and I'll track it. Listen to me, Sam. You stay on the bus, and I'll come to you, Dean ordered him. He was already in the parking lot and getting into his SUV as Jody climbed into the passenger seat. She was on the phone with Bobby to let him know the situation. He heard Sam talking to someone before coming back to him. The driver says this is bus 37, and it's going to the downtown area. The next stop is Wildwood and Blossom, Sam told him. Got it, Sam. You hang in there. We'll be there by the time the bus gets there. Keep your head down and stay calm, Dean told him, hoping to keep him calm. Sam stored his cell and kept darting his eyes around checking when the bus stopped to pick up and let off passengers. He looked for any signs of the gang members and wasn't sure what he'd do if they got on. He was literally trapped on the bus. Sam was so tense every hiss or noise had him jumping and cringing from it. Nearly 30 minutes later, the bus pulled into its last stop with a hiss of air brakes as it stopped. Sam remained in his seat as the other passengers got off the bus. He wasn't sure what to do, whether to get off or stay on. This is the last stop, sir, the bus driver told him. Sam, Dean called out as he stepped onto the bus and quickly looked around. Dean, Sam answered, standing up with a look of hope on his face. Come on, kid. Let's get out of here, Dean told him, grabbing his arm and guiding him from the bus. My car's over there. Get in. They quickly walked the short distance to the SUV, and Sam got in the back, while Dean slid back behind the wheel, driving back into traffic and disappearing. Are you okay, Sam? Jody asked him, looking between the seats at his pale, sweaty face. No, Sam replied in a weak voice. We're going to take you to the Plaza Motel and get you a room for the night, Dean told him. That will give us time to check this out and see if there is a threat. I saw them, Sam stated firmly. I'm not doubting you, Sam. But if they didn't see you and they don't find any sign of you, then you may be okay. We'll assess the threat and take it one step at a time. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. Sam didn't say anything as he wrapped his arms around his body that was trembling, not able to stop it. This was his worst nightmare coming true. It never really sunk in about his life being in danger until now. There were bad guys out there that wanted him dead. Dead, as in not living. His eyes glazed over, and he went away. Dean, Jody whispered. He's not doing too good. She continued, seeing the vacant look in Sam's eyes. I'm hurrying, Dean replied, gripping the steering wheel tighter as he glanced in the rear view mirror. He was sure Sam was going into shock. He took a side street to get around some of the traffic, and finally pulled up to the motel. Jody, go in and register and get us a room. I'll bring Sam up through the parking garage, so he won't be seen. Got it. I'll text you the floor and room number, and we'll try to get one near an exit in case we need it, she replied, getting out and going in the front door. Dean pulled around the building and into the underground parking garage to find some place to park. He tried to get one close to the elevators, and waited for Jody's text, so he'd know where to go. The plaza was one of several motels they used in the area when they needed to stash a witness. He pulled his cell out a little later when it pinged he had a text. He pulled it up and read it before getting out and opening the back door to get Sam out. Sam, hey man, Dean called gently to him as he placed a hand on his shoulder and shook it. Sam, you need to get out. Sam didn't respond to him until Dean tapped his cheeks and turned his head to get in his line of sight. Look at me, he stated firmly as he grasped his chin between his fingers. We need to get inside. Can you get out of the car? Sam finally blinded slowly a few times and brought Dean's face into focus. He looked at him with a confused look like he didn't know what was going on. There you are. Dean smiled at him. We've got you a room in this motel. Think you can get out so we can go upstairs? Sam jerkily started moving as he tried to get his body to cooperate and do as Dean wanted. With Dean's help, Sam stood on wobbly legs trying to get his balance. He let Dean lead him to an elevator and get on and hit the button for the second floor. When they got off, they headed down the hall to room 267. Jody opened the door when Dean knocked on it. I think this will do just fine, she commented as they stepped inside. Dean and Sam stepped farther into the room, and Dean gave it a quick once-over. He didn't stop Sam from shuffling to one of the queen beds, but stopped him when he was going to take the one closest to the door. It was logical to Dean if someone was coming through the door, he would be the first line of defense to protect Sam. Sam laid down on the other bed and curled up with his back to them. He didn't speak to either of them as they talked quietly between themselves. I'll go see what Bobby has found out and give you a call, Jody whispered to Dean. I'll stay here with him, Dean replied, looking at Sam's prone body. I don't feel comfortable leaving him alone right now. I'll bring some food back later and check on you guys. That sounds good. The kid likes healthy food, and maybe bring some ginger ales too. Dean stepped to the bed and pulled the comforter over Sam's still body, so he'd stay warm. Got it. Call me if you need anything else or if there's trouble. Jody looked one last time at Sam before slipping from the room. Will do. Dean sat down on the other bed, near the door, and pulled the pillow out to lean against the headboard. He looked around and found the remote, deciding to watch a little television to pass the time. He turned the volume low so not to disturb Sam, and began to flip through the channels until he found something to watch. Dean kept glancing at Sam's still body, feeling sorry for him, and wondered if he was going to be uprooted again. There was a soft knock hours later, and Dean went on high alert, pulling his gun and going to the door. He checked before opening it to be sure it was Jody. After unlocking the door, he pulled it open to allow Jody to enter, carrying a couple of bags of food and a pack. She had brought his to-go bag from work, so he'd have clean clothes, extra ammo, and his toiletries. Dean had Jody pick up some basic toiletries for Sam too. Any problems? Dean asked her, glancing in the hall before locking the door back. No, and Bobby hasn't got any news from the local cops or FBI. They're checking airlines, trains, and buses to see if anyone throws a red flag. But if they drove here, it's going to be harder. You were careful coming back, right? Don't insult me. I know how to spot a tail. Jody scoffed, punching him in the arm at the insult. How's he doing? He got up one time and barely made it to the bathroom and laid back down. Hasn't said a word or even acknowledged I was here. I think the thought of having to change his name again, and starting over has overwhelmed him. It's a shame this is happening to him. He's a nice guy that's being dealt a sorry hand, Jody commented. Guess I should get him up and see if he will eat something. Dean sighed. I got him some soup and crackers. Thought it would be easy on his stomach. "Hey Sam," Dean called to him as he shook his leg to roust him. "Jody's back and she brought some food. Wanna try to eat something?" Wah, Sam slurred as he jerked with Dean's touch. He raised his head and stared bleary-eyed at him, like he didn't comprehend what he was saying. "You should eat something," Dean repeated, nodding to the table where Jody was sitting, food out on the table. "I don't," Sam started but was cut off by Dean. "You need to eat, Sam. Jody got you some soup. Why don't you try just a little since she went to all that trouble?" "Come on, Sam. I have ginger ale too," Jody offered, holding up a bottle. Sam focused on Jody and her warm smile. He sniffed and caught a whiff of the food, making his stomach growl, and reluctantly pushed himself to a sitting position. He didn't move for a minute as he let his head clear, and then got up to walk slowly to the table, taking a seat. "Here you go, Sam, some chicken and rice soup, and I got you some crackers too," she offered, pushing the cup of soup toward him, along with the crackers and a spoon. Jody put the ginger ale within his reach, before dividing the rest of the food between her and Dean. "Oh yeah," Dean hummed as he opened the container to see what he had. Jody had gotten him a hamburger steak, mashed potatoes with gravy, toast, and of course a slice of pie. "Jody, you're too good to me. Someone has to watch out for you, partner. And you do a great job at it. Only because I like you and don't want to break in another partner." Sam listened to the banter between them as he tried a bite of soup. He added a couple of crackers and took another bite. His taste still wasn't the greatest, but he knew Dean was right. He needed to keep his strength up. He opened the ginger ale and sipped it, letting the coldness settle in his stomach. The tartness and icy cold of the liquid soothed his parched throat. "Did Bobby find out anything?" Dean questioned Jody. "No, he sent some men to check around the library and the park, but didn't see anyone. They're still checking, and he'll let us know if they find anything. Bobby is having the security and video cameras in the area checked, but that will take time. You know how red tape is with these things." "Good. I'll stay with Sam here for a few days to do a threat assessment before we decide if he is safe here or not. Let's just hope the DA and FBI are on the same page." Bobby had to inform them of what happened. They were not happy. "I bet they want to take control and do it themselves," Dean grunted with a snort. "They're always wanting to stick their noses in where they don't belong." "So true. If they'd just let us do our jobs, it would make things a lot easier," Jody agreed. "Am I going to have to move?" Sam asked in a small voice, uncertainty filling his eyes as he looked from Dean to Jody. "Right now, we don't know yet, Sam. Nothing's been decided," Dean told him, being honest about it. He couldn't lie to him about this, knowing it would be wrong, since this would affect his future. He looked down at his food and swallowed back the bile that threatened to come up. He didn't want to think about that right now. Just the thought of having to uproot again was unbearable. Dean must have seen how upset he was because he laid a comforting hand on his shoulder and squeezed gently. "We'll figure this out, Sam. You're not alone in this. We're not going to desert you." Sam kept his head down because he didn't want them to see the tears welling in his eyes, or that he was scared. He choked down a cracker, washing it on down with the ginger ale. "I had Jody get you a couple of things, toothbrush, paste comb, and I have an extra shirt you can borrow," Dean told him, hoping to get his mind off things. "The bag's in the bathroom." "Thanks," Sam whispered as he blinked back his tears and sniffed. He wiped at his face and pushed what was left of the soup away. He couldn't stomach it anymore, and decided to brush his teeth and lay back down. They watched Sam get up and head for the bathroom, closing the door behind him. Neither commented on his reaction or condition, knowing there wasn't much they could do for him now, but just keep him safe. Hopefully this was a false alarm, and Sam could stay in Austin. SPN. "Okay, I'm going to go unless you want me to stay with him," Jody told Dean an hour later. "No, I'm good. Call me if you hear anything," Dean replied, looking over at the mound in the far bed. "I'll be back in the morning and will bring you some breakfast. Be care out there, Jody. Don't I always? Take care of the kid." Jody let herself out, and Dean locked the door behind her. He went to use the bathroom and came out to settle on his bed. He had his gun lying by his side in case he needed it. Dean lay there listening to any out-of-place noises, but it was quiet. He let himself doze but didn't really sleep. He had perfected this while in the Marines. You slept when and where you could, especially if you were out in the field on assignment. Dean jerked awake when he heard whimpering coming from somewhere. He sat up and looked to the other bed to see Sam tossing and turning. As he gasped and choked trying to get air, he got up and went to his side. "Sam, hey man, wake up," Dean encouraged him, shaking his shoulder. "You're dreaming." "Please no," Sam cried out as his eyes sprang open, and he scooted away from him. "It's okay, you were dreaming." "Sorry," he mumbled, breathing hard as he wiped his face. "Didn't mean to wake you." "It's okay, go on back to sleep." Sam just nodded and laid back down, pulling the covers tightly around him, like he could use them to keep the outside world at bay. He watched Dean through slit eyelids as he grabbed a water from the mini fridge and downed half of it. He sat the rest back in the fridge, headed to the bathroom, and then laid back down on the bed, listening to be sure Sam was okay. A few hours later, Dean's cell began to vibrate, and he picked it up, squinted at the display to see Jody was calling. He sensed something was wrong before answering it. "What's going on, Jody?" Dean asked, keeping his voice low. "Dean, get Sam up now," she hissed. "They're here and you two need to get out of there." "I'm coming up now." Dean hung up and jumped from the bed. "Sam, get up, get your shoes on. We're leaving," Dean told him in an urgent voice. "What?" Sam questioned, wiping sleep from his eyes. "We've got to get out of here. Go grab your stuff from the bathroom and get your shoes on." "Okay," Sam replied, wide awake now. He rushed to the bathroom and came out a minute later with his things. "Let me have them," Dean ordered, taking the bag and stuffing it in his pack. He watched Sam slip on his boots when someone knocked. After checking, Dean let Jody into the room. "We can go down the back way," Jody told them. "We need to get him somewhere safe and we don't trust anyone." "How did they even know we were here?" Dean asked, grabbing Sam's arm and pulling him toward the door. "I don't know. Sam, you stay behind me and do exactly what I tell you," he ordered him. He looked out the door into the hallway to be sure it was empty before leading them from the room. They took the stairs down to the underground garage, and Dean pulled up short when he saw some guys walking around like they were looking for someone. "We've got company. You get him out of here, Dean. I'll cover your back," Jody told him as she pulled her gun. Dean handed Sam the pack and pulled his own gun as they ducked down behind some cars and made their way toward the SUV. They were halfway there before being spotted. Bullets started flying as they exchanged gunfire. Windows broke and chips of concrete sprayed around them. Dean took one guy out and Jody got another one, but there were others running toward them. "I'll draw their attention. You get out of here," Jody told him. "I'm not leaving you. You keep the kid safe," Dean insisted before slinking away to ambush the remaining bad guys. As they fired at Jody and Sam, he was able to get the drop on them and took them out. "Shit, damn it," Jody cried out when a bullet caught her in the shoulder. "Jody, how bad?" Dean asked, seeing the blood stain spreading out on her shirt. "I'll live, but this was my favorite jacket. Come on, I'll get you to the hospital," Dean told her. "Sam, are you okay?" he asked as Sam looked at Jody and the blood seeping from between her fingers. It only took him a moment to react and rush to her. "Let me see," Sam said. He pulled her shirt back to check the wound. "Do you have something to use for a dressing?" "Yeah, first aid kit is in the SUV. Let's get out of here before backup comes." Dean helped Jody up and they hurried to the vehicle. Sam and Jody got in back while Dean tossed him the kit and got into the driver's seat. He quickly got the SUV cranked and headed for the exit. "How is she?" "It was a through and through, but I don't see anything major hit," Sam replied as he dressed Jody's wound. "I'm fine, Dean. Don't fret so," Jody told him. "You drop me off and get out of here." "Okay, I'm getting Sam out of Austin and going off the grid. We should have been safe at the motel. I don't understand how they found us unless..." "I know you're thinking someone talked. It's the only explanation. Inform Bobby and when I can, I will call him." Dean got on the main road and headed for the hospital to drop Jody off. He was already developing a plan in his head as he checked behind him to be sure no one was following. "I'm going to ditch my cell and get a burner." "Good idea. Sam, take the battery out of my cell," Dean instructed him, tossing his cell back to him. "And do the same with yours. If there is a leak, we don't want to be tracked." Sam fumbled with it and did as he was told and dropped it over the seat to Dean. He dug his own cell out and did the same. He looked down at his bloody hands as it sunk in. Jody got shot because of him. What if it had been worse? He didn't want anyone to die because of him. Sam didn't think he could live with himself if that happened. "It's okay, Sam. This is the job. It's not the first time I've been shot," Jody told Sam like she read his mind and knew what he was thinking. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, taping the field dressing down. "You've got nothing to be sorry about." She pulled her cell out and looked at the screen. "Bobby's calling. I'll fill him in." She answered it and relayed what had happened. "He's heading for the hospital." Dean pulled into the emergency entrance and stopped so Jody could get out. "Take care of yourself, Jody. I'll be in touch soon. We'll keep the FBI and DA off your back. You be safe out there and keep your heads down." "We will." Dean gave her a salute and pulled from the entrance. He headed across town to his place to swap vehicles and grab some clothes. He hoped they wouldn't have to be gone for too long. Dean looked in his rearview mirror at Sam as he started off into space, knowing he was shell-shocked. He knew it wasn't the blood, but the fact those guys were there to kill him, and Jody got caught in the crossfire and got shot. Dean wasn't going to let Sam be killed by anyone. He would do whatever needed to be done to protect him. After dropping Jody at the hospital to get medical attention, Dean stopped at a gas station and pulled around to the side where he wouldn't be seen. "Stay in the car and get down," Dean told Sam as he got out. He began to search the bottom of the vehicle and wheel wells for a tracker. He didn't want to take a chance of leading the bad guys to his home. Once he was satisfied there wasn't a device planted on the SUV, he popped the hood and pulled the fuse for the GPS and low jack, so it couldn't be hacked. He got back in and looked in the back seat to see Sam was lying down and was looking at him with frightened eyes. "It'll be okay, I've got a plan. Just stay hidden." Dean got back on the road and used every side street, back way, and alley to get out of town to the area that he lived. It was in a quiet housing development on the outskirts of town. He had found the place when he first moved there and loved it. He pulled up to the garage and opened the door so he could pull into one of the bays. "Okay, you can come up now," Dean told Sam as he closed the door and got out. "Where are we?" Sam asked cautiously as he let his eyes adjust to the dim lighting. "My place. I'm going to pack some things and we're heading out of town for a while until things cool down." "Won't the DA and FBI be upset?" "To hell with them," Dean scoffed. "I'm thinking that's where the leak came from. Someone got paid off and leaked your location." "Oh," was all Sam said, looking around and noticed a black classic muscle car sitting in another bay. He hurried after Dean and stepped into a laundry pantry room and waited for Dean to shut off an alarm. "There's a half bathroom there if you want to clean up," Dean offered, pointing to a partly open door to the left. "There's drinks in the fridge, help yourself." He stopped in the kitchen to grab a secure burner phone from its charger before heading down a hall to the back of the house. He needed to make 2 calls to put his plan into motion. Dean pulled a duffel from his closet as he waited for his call to be answered. He began to stuff a variety of clothes into the duffel and grabbed a pair of running shoes. "Hello, it's me, code name bug out 15 minutes. Fine." Dean hung up and dialed another number, hoping she would answer. "Hello," Jody greeted him. "Hey Joe, are you okay?" "I'm fine. The kid did a good job patching me up. I should be out of here in another hour. Sorry about not getting the guys before you got shot. It was my fault." "Stop it. Don't go blaming yourself for this. You know our job has these risks, and I'm not blaming anyone." "How's he doing?" "A little shell-shocked. I think he's taking blame too. Remember you told me about your friend that had a beach house in Biloxi?" "Yeah, I'm already ahead of you," Jody told him like she was reading his mind. "I'll text you the info to this number. Be careful and stay in touch." "Will do." Dean hung up and grabbed his bag to head back to the kitchen. He found Sam sitting at the bar drinking a Gatorade. He started to stand, and Dean motioned for him to stay seated. "We've got a few minutes. Do you want something to eat?" "I've got yogurt or some breakfast bars," he offered after looking in the cabinet. I'm not hungry," Sam replied, grimacing as his stomach churned. He was stressed and worried about their situation. Sam watched Dean grab a pack from under a cabinet and began to toss power and granola bars into it. He got water from the fridge to add to the pack, and lastly snagged a couple of bags of jerky. Dean picked up his mail and quickly sorted it, throwing away junk mail and keeping the important things. He opened a couple of bills and got his checkbook out to pay them. When that was done, he laid the envelopes aside to be mailed. Sam jumped when someone knocked on the back door. He tensed and got ready to run as Dean went to the door and opened it, allowing a tall stranger to come in. Sam eyed him cautiously as he shoulder bumped and shook hands with Dean, and then looked to him with curious eyes, but didn't say anything. The stranger had black hair pulled back by a leather strap and dark eyes. He was Sam's height but more muscular and fit. He was deeply tanned, and Sam thought he was Native American. He was not someone you'd want to tangle with or get on their bad side. "Kid, this is Shadow, a Marine buddy of mine. Best tracker I've ever seen besides me. We served together and stayed friends after getting out. He's going to help us." Dean made a point not to mention Sam's name to Shadow. Shadow knew Dean was a U.S. Marshal, but not exactly what he did. "Nice to meet you, kid." Shadow greeted him in a deep, strong voice. "Hi," Sam squeaked out and cleared his throat before continuing. "Nice to meet you too. Here you go. These should fit him," Shadow said, handing Dean a duffel. "He brought you some clothes since we can't go back to your place," Dean explained to Sam, who was giving them a puzzled look, thinking he had missed something. "His will fit you better than mine." "Okay," Sam replied, looking to Shadow for a moment, thinking they would probably be a little big. "There's food in the fridge. I don't think there will be a problem, but watch yourself," Dean told him. "Will do, Gunny. I came prepared." He sat another duffel on the table, patting it. "The car is parked a block over like you asked, with a full tank. Gray Nissan." He handed Dean a set of keys for the vehicle. Good, Dean nodded knowing his meaning. Tomorrow, if you will drive my SUV back to the office and leave it in the parking lot for me, in case someone is trying to track it. Here's the keys. Here's the address and don't worry about being stopped. It's been taken care of. I can do that. Shadow accepted the slip of paper and glanced at it before stuffing it in a pocket. I'll check in with you from time to time to be sure everything is okay, Dean told Shadow. He looked at his cell when it chimed and pulled up his messages, reading the one from Jody. You have my boss's number if you need anything from him. I'll take care of things here for you. Don't worry about anything, Shadow assured him. Okay kid, we're good to go. Grab your bag and let's head out. Dean picked up his own duffel and the pack with food and drinks, waiting for Sam to take the one Shadow had brought for him. He headed out the back door and through his yard, slipping out a gate and walking down a dirt road to the next paved road. He looked both ways before turning right and walking a short distance to a gray Nissan. It was a dirty, nondescript car that would blend in anywhere. He opened the trunk to put their duffels in, and then unlocked the doors so they could get in. He knew the car was in good working order, and he shouldn't have a problem with it. Where are we going? Sam asked, his voice low and strained. We're going to another state to be on the safe side. I think you'll like the place. We've got about an 8.5-hour drive. Sam paid attention to the signs and saw Dean was heading for Interstate 10 and knew they were going east. He wondered where Dean was taking him, but didn't question him any more about it. He stared aimlessly out the side window, watching the scenery flash by in a blur. His mind was not ready to think yet, as he tried to process all that had happened to him in such a short period of time. I'm stopping for gas up ahead, so go do your thing and keep your head down and avoid any cameras, Dean told Sam after checking the gas gauge. There's a cap in the back you can use. Sam looked around in the back seat and saw a camouflaged color ball cap on the seat. He reached and grabbed it and tried it on, seeing it needed adjusting. After fitting it to his head, he left it on as he looked out the side window, reading the signs to see where they were. They were still heading east, and he wondered how far they were going. The exit Dean wanted was coming up, and he slowed and signaled his intentions. He let the car roll to a stop at the top of the ramp. He waited for the light to change and turned left, going over the interstate to the other side of the road, and pulled into the truck stop and stopped at a pump. Mind what I told you. Don't talk to anyone. I'll be in when I'm done, Dean told him as he got out to pump the gas. All right, Sam mumbled, hunching his shoulders and keeping his head down. He went inside and headed for the bathroom first, and then to the cooler for a drink, deciding on a ginger ale. He snagged a bag of chips, feeling like something salty might help his stomach. He paid for the items and saw Dean coming through the door. I'm parked right outside. Go on and get in the car and lock the doors, Dean told Sam, handing him the keys. Okay, Sam replied, clutching the keys in his hand, and headed outside. He unlocked the car and got unlocking the doors back. He watched for Dean slumping down in the seat when other customers went into the truck stop. He let out the breath he didn't know he was holding when Dean appeared and headed for the car. Sam reached over and unlocked the door so he could get in. Okay, we're over halfway there, Dean told him as he settled behind the wheel and cranked the car to get back on the road. Once he was on the highway again, Dean opened a pastry he had gotten and began to eat it. He sipped on the coffee he had bought and glanced over at Sam to see him munching on some chips. He was glad Sam was eating something at least. The rest of the drive proved uneventful, except for some highway construction that had them sitting in slow-moving traffic for 30 minutes before getting out of it. Once he was out of the backup, Dean sped down the highway toward their destination. I'm going to need to stop to pick some food up before we head to the house, Dean told Sam as he got off the interstate. Okay, are we almost there? Yep, less than 30 minutes. We're near the ocean, aren't we? The Gulf. The house sits in a cove with its own secluded beach and is isolated. It's the perfect place to lay low since there's no connection to me or you. That sounds nice. I think I could use the solitude right now. There was a large grocery store on the way, and Dean pulled into the lot, looking for a place to park. You should probably stay in the car while I go in, Dean told him. The less your face is exposed to the public, the better. Anything special you would like? Fruit and yogurt maybe, and a book to read, Sam replied. And maybe a pair of sunglasses. He would rather have gone inside, but knew Dean was right. He settled low in the seat and focused on the house Dean was talking about. He couldn't wait to get there, and maybe he could relax. Sam was lost in thought and didn't realize the time that passed until Dean opened the trunk to put in his purchases, getting his attention. Okay, we're all set, Dean told Sam as he dropped in the driver's seat. He checked the directions Jody had sent and followed them to the beach house. The lots on the street were large and private. Dean turned onto a driveway at the end of the street and pulled up to a one-story, stucco home. He eased under the carport and stopped, killing the engine. Let's get our stuff inside and I'll fix us something to eat. All right, Sam agreed, getting out and going to the back to help Dean carry in the bags. He watched as Dean found the key and unlocked the front door for them. They stepped inside and into an airy living room that had windows looking out onto a patio and swimming pool. There was a gate that led down to the beach and the ocean below the house. "The kitchen is in here," Dean called to him to get his attention. Sam shook his head and pulled himself back to reality and headed into the kitchen with his bags. They went back outside to get the rest in their duffels. There's a bedroom on either side of the house with its own bathroom. You have a preference? There is queen bed in each bedroom. Either is fine with me, Sam shrugged. I'll start putting the things in the fridge. How about I make us some sandwiches and we eat on the deck? Yeah, I'd like that, Sam agreed. He left out the deli meat, cheese, lettuce, tomato, mustard, and mayo for Dean, putting the other things that needed refrigerated away. He put the dry goods in an empty cabinet by the stove, or left some sitting on the counter. He found a couple of books in one bag and 2 pairs of sunglasses. He looked at the titles of the books to see he hadn't read them. He laid them aside for later and put the sunglasses on the counter for them. SPN. Don't forget your sunglasses. You grab the chips and drinks, Dean told him before opening the sliding glass door to the patio. He carried 2 plates outside and took a seat at a table. He could hear the waves breaking on the beach and thought the place was serene and peaceful. Maybe we can take a walk on the beach and watch the sunset after we eat. I think I would like that, Sam replied, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath of the gentle breeze blowing through the yard. He took a bite of his sandwich and slowly chewed before swallowing. It suddenly hit him that he was hungry and took another larger bite, sipping his drink to wash it down. The sandwich seemed to taste better to him, and he wondered if it was because of being here at the beach, or that he was finally relaxed and didn't feel hunted. Are you doing okay, Sam? Dean asked. Better, I think, Sam admitted, being honest. That's good. I think this place will be good for you. It'll give you a chance to unwind and forget about what is going on in your life right now. We should be safe here. Do you know how long we'll be here? Nope. I'll call the office in the morning and get an update on things. Please check on Jody to see how she's doing. I plan on it. She said you did a decent job patching her up. You spoke with her? Yes, a college friend of hers owns this place. She's been here a number of times over the years, always talking about how nice this place was. I figured it would work for us too. Guess your friend didn't pack any swim trunks for me. I'll run out in the morning and pick a pair up for you. We've got to try the pool out while we're here. They finished their meal and headed out onto the beach. The waves broke gently on the shore as the tide moved out. It was off-season, so there were not many people out walking. Most of the other houses around them were empty. They walked down the beach before stopping to watch the sun slowly sinking down to the horizon. The light was fading the lower the sun disappeared until with a quick flash it was gone. They headed back to the house and went inside. You can take the bedroom on the right, and I'll use the other, Dean told him, picking up his duffel to head that way. We should probably turn in and get some rest. It was a long drive here, and I'm bushed. If you need anything, come get me. Okay, Sam responded. He picked up his duffel and the books Dean had got and went to the other side of the house to find the bedroom. The switch by the door turned on a lamp by the bed, lighting the room. He saw the bathroom through an open door across the room and sat the duffel on a suitcase stand that was at the end of the bed. The books he laid on the nightstand, thinking he'd read for a while before going to sleep. Sam got the small bag with his toiletries and went into the bathroom to brush his teeth and wash his face. He came out and opened the duffel to find an assortment of clothes for him to wear. There were even cutoffs and a tank top among them. He held the cutoffs up to his body and thought they might be a little big. He took off his boots and jeans, leaving on his t-shirt and briefs, before turning the covers back to slip into bed. Sam adjusted the pillows so he could sit up and picked up one of the books, turning to the first page and began to read. Sam rolled over in bed and tried to get his mind working to remember where he was, and looked around the unfamiliar bedroom. It all came back to him in a flash, and he dropped his head back onto the pillow with a sigh. Knowing he wasn't going to get any more sleep, he got up and went to the bathroom, and then slipped on the cutoffs and exchanged the t-shirt for the tank top. He wandered into the living room and listened but didn't hear Dean, so he put on his sunglasses and headed outside into the bright sunlight. There was a gentle breeze blowing from the ocean, and he headed down to the beach. Sam walked to where the waves were breaking and stood there, letting the water wash over his feet. He could feel the sand shifting under him as the waves pulled it back out. Seagulls and sandpipers ran back and forth with the waves looking for food. Small crabs quickly dug into the sand away from any threats. Bubbles from other little creatures appeared all around him, and he smiled to himself. He picked up several perfect seashells and moved back far enough where the water wouldn't hit him and sat down. Sam gazed out at the ocean and watched the waves forming before rushing to the shore. He saw a couple of guys further down the beach surfing, and glanced at several older couples walking on the beach. They didn't look like a threat or anything, so Sam didn't linger on them. He looked back out at the ocean and saw something surface for a moment before it quickly disappeared. He wasn't sure what it was and got up as if drawn to the water and walked into the waves. He was hip deep and stopped to scan the water, trying to find what he saw. He took a few more steps deeper into the water, and almost fell as the wave hit him hard. He kept struggling to get past the waves and stepped into a drop-off, getting a face full of seawater. "Sam!" A voice called to him, but he didn't hear it. "Sammy!" Sam tried to swim as an undertow grabbed him and tossed him around. He came up sputtering and splashing, trying to get out of the grasps of the unforgiving waves, when another smacked him in the face. A small voice whispered to him, what if he just stopped struggling and let the undertow sweep him away? He wouldn't have to hide or worry about people wanting to kill him. The moment of weakness passed as quickly as it came, and a surge of strength surged through him. To hell with that, he wasn't giving up. He was fighting all the way, no matter what. Strong arms grabbed him and began to pull him back toward the shore, as he struggled to get a breath fighting against his rescuer. "Stop struggling, Sammy!" Dean yelled at him, pulling him to his feet and dragging him to the shore where they collapsed on the beach. "What the hell were you thinking, dude? You could have drowned." Sam coughed and wheezed as he got the water from his lungs and spit it out. He looked over at Dean's worried face through blurry eyes, before hanging his head ashamed of what had happened. He knew how to swim, though he didn't do it often, and should have known better than to go into unfamiliar water like that. "Are you okay?" Dean asked him, trying to see his eyes to be sure Sam wasn't lying to him. "I'm fine," he wheezed out as he coughed again, and let a shiver run through his cold body. "Come on, you need to get out of those wet clothes." Dean helped him stand and guided him toward the gate and into the backyard. "Can you make it to your bathroom?" "I'm okay now," Sam assured him, stepping from his grasp, and worked on keeping his balance. "Go take a hot shower and I'll do the same then." Dean watched Sam walk slowly away toward his bedroom. He didn't know what Sam was thinking going out in the water like that, and hoped it didn't mean something else, that he was trying to harm himself. He knew Sam was stressed, worried, and not in the right mindset after the attack. He sighed heavily and headed for his own bedroom to shower and change clothes. Sam stood under the hot water and shivered as it started to warm his cold body. He tried to understand what had happened and why he kept going, but nothing made sense. Was his subconscious trying to tell him something? He was smarter than that. He braced himself against the wall and shook his head like he was trying to clear it. Sam finished his shower and stepped into the bedroom with a towel cinched around his hips. He looked in the duffel and pulled out briefs and socks first, slipping them on. He felt a little uncomfortable wearing someone else's clothes, but he had no choice, and then thought of it as buying clothes from a thrift store. They were worn by someone else too. Once he was dressed, Sam wandered back into the main part of the house, letting the smell of cooked food lead him into the kitchen where Dean was finishing breakfast. "Hey, sit, it's almost ready," Dean told him as he sat a cup of coffee in front of him. "Thanks," Sam mumbled, wrapping his hands around the cup for a moment before bringing it to his lips to sip. "I think I need to lay some ground rules out for you," Dean started in his tough, professional voice. "Absolutely no swimming in the ocean unless I'm with you. If you want to do any swimming, use the pool. And no going off on your own while we are here. You about gave me a panic attack this morning when I couldn't find you. Understand?" Sam hunched his shoulders as Dean scolded him and nodded yes when he stopped. "I didn't hear anything. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir. I'm sorry," Sam said, glancing up for a moment before dropping his eyes. "I'm being tough on you because it's my job to keep you alive, and I can't do that unless you work with me. Here, eat," Dean told him as he set a plate with a bacon and egg sandwich on it, cut up fruit, and a glass of orange juice. Sam looked at the food and grimaced slightly, not sure he wanted that much to eat. "I saw that. You need fuel for your body. I make a mean sandwich." Dean sat down with his own food and began to eat, watching Sam as he studied the sandwich for a moment, before finally picking it up and taking a small bite. He smiled to himself when Sam took another bigger bite. "After we eat, let's run over to the surf shop and grab some swim trunks. They'll be better than cutoffs to swim in." "Okay," Sam agreed, sipping his orange juice and wiping his mouth. "Sammy, I gotta ask this." Dean started looking at him with concern. "You weren't trying to do anything stupid like hurt yourself, were you?" Sam stopped chewing and stared wide-eyed at Dean for a moment before dropping his eyes. He wasn't sure how to answer that since he wasn't sure himself. He could feel his face growing hot as he bit his lower lip. Why would you even think about doing something that idiotic? Dean scoffed. You can't let those assholes win that way. You're tough and you're smart and you have common sense. Don't sell yourself short by any means. He huffed madly and pinched his lips together for a moment, as he assessed the situation and determined what to do next. Okay, talk to me. What's going on in that brain of yours? I really wasn't trying to kill myself, Sam finally admitted. I don't know what happened. Something inside of me was telling me it was a way out of this mess. But then I realized how wrong that was, and I started fighting to get out of that undertow. Sorry if I hurt you with my struggling. You didn't, and good to hear that. Do you trust me? Dean asked. Yes, of course. I'm not going to let anything happen to you under my watch. You just need to hang in there and let me do my job. Can you do that? I guess, Sam sighed, knowing he was right. If you do want to talk about anything, I'm a good listener, Dean told him in a gentler voice. You're not alone in this, though it might feel like it at times. I know, thanks. And I appreciate it. Well, finish up so we can go shopping. I for one want to try that pull-out. Dean popped the last bite of his sandwich into his mouth and took his plate to the sink. He sipped the last of his coffee and rinsed his cup. I'll be ready in 15 minutes. That should give you time to eat. Okay, Sam answered as he continued to eat. When he was done, he took his dishes to the sink too, and headed to his bedroom to brush his teeth and put on his shoes. He grabbed his sunglasses and hat before walking back to the living room to find Dean was there waiting on him. The shop's not far, I saw it coming in. Do you need some water shoes too to avoid stepping on something if we walk down the beach again? Yeah, that would be good. I know how easily you can step on something buried in the sand because you don't see it. SPN. Dean pulled into the parking lot of the surf shop a short time later and found a suitable spot. They got out and went inside to shop. Sam went one way and Dean went another as different things caught their eyes. Hey Sammy, what size shoe do you wear? Dean called to him, holding up a pair of black and red water shoes. I guess 12. I'll be over in a moment to try them on, Sam replied, freezing when it dawned on him that Dean was calling him Sammy, like a nickname. He thought back and realized he had done it previously. He didn't mind it and thought maybe they were on their way to becoming friends. He quickly looked through the swim trunks and chose a dark gray pair with a red stripe running down the side. Now these are what you need for your walks on the beach, Dean crowed as he held a red Speedo up for Sam to see. I'm sure you'll have the chicks swooning for you. Not on your life, Sam insisted as his face turned red when he saw a couple of women looking over at them and whispering behind their hands as they checked them out. I found a pair of trunks, he grunted, wanting to disappear. Ah, you're not the adventurous type, Dean chuckled, holding the Speedo up to his jeans. Man, look at the price for such a small piece of cloth. It's crazy to pay that for this. You might as well go out naked. I'd pay to see that, one of the women called to them as they laughed. Maybe next time, sweetheart, Dean replied, dropping the Speedo and heading for the sensible trunks. Sam looked through the shoes and found a pair that would match his trunks in his size. He wandered back over to Dean, giving the women a wide berth so they wouldn't decide to talk to him. He waited as Dean looked through the rack, finally picking a pair of trunks to his liking. He stopped at a display of sunscreen and grabbed 2 bottles, deciding they didn't need to get sunburnt while there. He also grabbed a couple of brimmed hats for them to wear while walking on the beach. Okay, we're good to go. Let's get out of here. I'm ready to do some relaxing in the pool. They headed for the cashier and paid for their purchases. One of the women stopped Dean and gave him something before he could get out the door. He got in the car and looked at the paper. It had a name and phone number with a note. If you'd like to get together, give me a call, and your friend can come too. Dean laughed and gave the note to Sam to read. Sam rolled his eyes and snorted a laugh, telling Dean to go for it. Dean headed back to the house, and the first thing they did was change clothes and apply sunscreen to enjoy the pool for a while. It was refreshing and just what they both needed. It was almost a week later, and Dean and Sam were up early that morning to take a jog on the beach before the temperatures climbed as the sun rose. There were storm clouds building out at sea and were moving their way. Dean slowed as they neared the house to walk the rest of the way to cool down. Have you heard anything else from your boss? Sam huffed, drawing in long breaths. He walked beside Dean, letting the breeze dry the sweat on his face. I was going to check in after we get back to the house and after a shower, Dean replied. They should know something by now. At least I hope so. Be sure to check on Jody. I hate she got hurt protecting me, Sam asked, still feeling guilty about her being shot. Because she was protecting him. I will, and it wasn't your fault. So get that out of your head. I'll try, he mumbled, looking out to sea at the gathering dark clouds. Looks like we might get storm. Yeah, better get on back to the house and cleaned up. These storms can be a bear sometimes. I've always liked storms even as a kid. To see the display of power with the lightning and thunder is thrilling. You're letting your nerdy side show, Sammy. Dean laughed as he stopped to look out at the brewing storm. Thin streaks of lightning bounced around in the clouds as they pulled water from the ocean into their mist. Soft rumbling could be heard, and the waves seemed to get bigger and more forceful as they broke on the shore. Come on, let's get inside and showered before it gets here. Sam stayed on the beach a few minutes longer watching the storm before following Dean through the gate and into the house. He was sweaty and tired, but also alive and exhilarated. The last few days gave him time to assess his situation and mull it over, finally coming to terms with what he had chosen to do. His parents had raised him to be honest and to do the right thing. Sam couldn't have lived with himself if he hadn't come forward to testify. The cool shower felt good as Sam let the water wash over his body. He was getting tanned after a few days in the sun, and his face had a rosy glow now. He looked healthier and felt it too. When he was finished, Sam dried and ran his towel over his head to get out any excess water. He wiped his hand across the mirror and gazed at himself in the mirror. He wouldn't have recognized himself as the doctor from Los Angeles. He decided not to shave and give himself a rugged look. Once he was dressed, Sam headed back to the main part of the house. Man, that was close, Sam noted as he jumped when thunder boomed around the house. He looked out the glass windows and saw sheets of rain pounding the house, and lightning flashed out on the ocean. I know, and the main part of the storm's not even here yet, said Dean in an excited voice. Grab a seat, and let's see what kind of show Mother Nature has to offer. Dean plopped down on the couch that faced out toward the beach to watch. Sam chuckled, thinking he sounded like a kid, and moved to sit on the couch with him. They watched the flashes of bright light bounce around in the clouds, and waited for the claps of thunder to follow. The rain fell in buckets, soaking the landscape. Gusts of wind blew the palm trees back and forth, making the long limbs flap around, breaking some off. The storm suddenly dissipated, and the clouds began to break as the rain slacked off. Rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, and a rainbow stretched out across the water. Look at that, Sam pointed out, his voice excited as he got up to stand at the windows. Now, that's what I call a spectacular ending, Dean replied. I agree, you don't get to see many of those. I know, that's true. Dean nodded, watching the rainbow, observing all the colors that radiated from it. I think it's always a sign of good things to come, Sam said wishfully. Maybe it will be. Well, I need to make a call. Dean sighed, getting up from the couch to head to his bedroom for some privacy. Sam opened the sliding glass door and stepped out onto the patio, drawing in a deep breath of the fresh air after a storm. A few drops of random rain hit Sam in the face as he turned skyward and closed his eyes. He smiled and laughed softly, wiping his face and feeling exhilarated and content. He walked over to the gate and opened it to step out onto the beach, and strolled to the water's edge to watch the strong waves beating the shore. There was still power and danger in the large waves that brought bits of seaweed, shells, and other interesting things to shore. He was lost in the moment and just stood there drinking it all in. Sam didn't hear Dean walk up behind him, and was startled when he caught sight of him in his peripheral vision. Oh, hey, sorry I didn't tell you I came out here, Sam started, but was interrupted by Dean. It's okay. I knew where to find you, and I knew you wouldn't be going far, Dean assured him. I didn't want to disturb your call. Did you find out anything? As a matter of fact, I did. I'm happy to inform you that you won't need to testify after all. You're off the hook. What? Are you joking with me? How did this happen? Sam asked in shock. Why don't we go sit down on the patio and I'll tell you? Sam snapped his mouth shut and quickly followed Dean back through the gate to the patio. He waited for Dean to get a towel to dry the chairs so they could sit down. He accepted the water Dean offered him and sat at the table waiting for Dean to talk to him. I talked to Jody and Bobby. She's doing fine, by the way. They found the mole in the DA's office. It was one of the assistants who had a grudge against the DA because of some promotion that he thought should have been his. He was offered a hefty sum of money for information on your case, Dean told Sam, pausing to sip some water. How does that keep me from having to testify? Sam questioned. The FBI informed us that a coup happened within the drug cartel. Seemed another drug lord wanted all the business, and let's just say, all the major players didn't make it out in one piece. The local police, along with the FBI and D, arrested or killed most of the gang in law that was attached to the drug cartel. They found a stash house filled with drugs, guns, and money. It was a huge bust. So the case against the gang members is dropped since they are dead. You're free, Sammy. There shouldn't be anyone wanting you dead now. Wow, Sam whispered as he let out a slow breath and sat back in the chair. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was free. He wasn't in the crosshairs of any killers anymore. He didn't know what to say or do. This means you can have your old life back. That is, if you want it, Dean offered, watching Sam for his reaction. Are you serious? Sam asked in disbelief. Yes. Sam frowned slightly as he began to mull over that information. Did he want his old life back, working 12 to 14 hours a day, all the stress of the job, never having time for himself, or being able to take any time off? Did he want to go back to that? I talked to Bobby and signed out for a few days vacation, so we don't have to go back yet. It'll give you some time to think about everything. If I wanted to stay in Austin, would I have to give the house back? Sam asked. No, that's yours, Sammy, but you would have to take over the payments in a couple of months. We get a good deal from the realtor, so the payments aren't that bad. It wouldn't be right to take it back after all that you've been through. Why? Are you thinking of maybe staying in Austin? I don't know. Ask me again in another day, and maybe I'll have an answer. Sam gazed out at the ocean deep in thought, ending their conversation. Dean got up and left Sam along with his thoughts. He knew he had some tough decisions to make and wondered what he would do. Dean liked Sam as a friend and would like to get to know him better. They seemed to click, and he wouldn't have to hide who he was from him since Sam knew. He wouldn't try to sway Sam one way or the other, because it had to be his decision. SPN. The following evening, Dean and Sam had finished dinner and were clearing the table and cleaning up. Sam was loading the dishwasher, and Dean was putting away leftovers. Dean, can we talk? Sam asked as he dried his hands on a towel. Sure, kid. Want to sit outside or inside? You're not that much older than me, Dean. I'm not a kid, Sam corrected him. Let's sit outside and enjoy the ocean. I know we'll be leaving in a couple of days. Okay, Dean smirked and rolled his eyes at Sam's remark as he went to the door and opened it to step outside. Sam followed him and took a seat. He listened to the waves breaking on the shore and knew he was going to miss that. It was so calming and relaxing for him. They sat there for a while until Sam finally started talking. I've made my decision, Sam announced, looking over at Dean for a moment before looking back at the sea. Okay, what did you decide? Dean asked, trying to hide his excitement until he knew the answer. I thought about all the pros and cons of each option. I thought about where I wanted to be in 5 years, and what would make me the happiest. Being moved to Austin was like giving me a second chance to reinvent myself, and to be honest, I liked it there. I think I'll look for a job in a private practice that won't be as stressful as a hospital would be. I can go back to being a doctor and not waste all the time and money I spent to become one. I like the job at the library, but it's not really me. And Dean encouraged when he really didn't give an answer yet. I know I want to stay in Austin and continue my life there, Sam said with conviction. He couldn't help but smile when he saw the look of happiness on Dean's face. That's great, Sammy. Dean beamed. Now that you're not a client, we can maybe do some things together. That is if you'd like to hang out with me. I would, Sam agreed, smiling at him. I want us to be good friends. Do you like going to sporting events? Concerts, breweries, rodeos, or car shows? They have some good ones in Austin and surrounding cities. Do you show your car? I saw it in the garage. It's nice looking. Yeah, sometimes. It was my dad's, a '67 Chevy Impala. Dad loved that car and took good care of it, and passed it down to me. And yeah, it would be fun hanging out with you and doing things. You know, there's several breweries that have live bands we could check out. I had found one in Dripping Springs right outside of Austin that I wanted to visit. I think it was called Family Business Brewery. That sounds interesting. We could do that and sample their brews. They sat back and looked out to the sea, listening to the sounds of the ocean, happy about the great outcome of a tough situation. Their friendship could grow now without any red tape to stop it. There was a rainbow after the storm. At least, most of the time. The end.